Hello guys, this is for case study EDL 851 module 12. First of all, I would like to read the component 7.4 for the standards. Program completers understand and have the capacity to evaluate, develop, and implement systems of supervision, support, and evaluation designed to promote school improvement and student success. Okay. Moving on a little bit with the summary here. The initial evaluation of Mrs. Stevens, this is at the beginning of the week. I supervised her classroom several times. It was evident that she was having difficulty. Students didn't appear to be sufficiently involved in learning. Most students seemed disinterested in the classroom proceedings. She didn't seem to know how to motivate her students. Unusual amount of noise coming from inside the classroom while outside in the hallway, I noticed. Students were talking at will. Seemed to be considerable amount of movement inside of the classroom. Students showed little respect for their teacher. Post-evaluation meeting, which was on Thursday, I found her to be irritable, hostile to suggestions, and even difficult to communicate with. While communicating that it seemed to be a problem in motivating her students, she became very defensive. She stated that, quote, she did not try to motivate the students by involving them in informal discussion, and said it wasn't her fault if the students clammed up every time the principal came into the room. Meeting ended with no progress having been made. Principal decided he had better visit her classroom once more before submitting his evaluation to his Board of Education superintendent about whether she should be rehired or not. Another classroom visit on Monday. This is my evaluation. No noticeable improvement in the class situation. Encountered her usual problems in carrying on a class discussion. Student participation was lacking. I decided not to renew her contract. Completed the teacher evaluation form. I noted that Mrs. Stevens' inadequacies. Second evaluation meeting with her. This was on Tuesday. Communicated Mrs. Stevens that the principal communicates with Mrs. Stevens that he is recommended to the board to not renew her contract. Mrs. Stevens denounced the evaluations as inaccurate and unfair. She exclaimed that she did not deserve the low ratings. She claims students are already involved as much as they can be. She claims that no one has offered any practical ideas on how to improve student involvement in her classroom. She threatens to sue the school district if she is fired. Legal and ethical issues. Ethical issues, principal has hurried his decision. He should get other stakeholders' opinions. Principal could have tried different tools, techniques, and feedback to help support this teacher to improve classroom management. Mrs. Stevens appears to be closed-minded for feedback from the principal. Legal issues, I don't see any legal issues here. It appears the principal is following the evaluation process that's set in place. We do not know the actual process. It's not given to us. And we're not sure what state this is in, so I'm going to assume it's in the state of Kansas because that's where I am. Mrs. Stevens will not be renewed. Mrs. Stevens could possibly take this matter to court. Does she have a court case? I don't think so in this case, my opinion. Okay, moving on to synthesis. Through supervision of classroom visits, evaluation, and one-on-one meetings, the principal has decided to not renew Mrs. Stevens' contract for the following year. However, she feels that this decision is inaccurate and unfair. Synthesize the facts. People in this case, Mrs. Stevens, she is the teacher that's being evaluated. She's female. This takes place in the classroom, and what she teaches is unknown. The principal is a male principal, high school classroom. The program is the evaluation and supervision. There are also new teachers. In this case, we don't know their gender or any identity or anything like that. We know that the other new teachers are all performing exceptionally well except for Mrs. Stevens. Customs, norms, personalities, race, gender, sources of political power. Place, well, this is Cheney, Kansas. We are 90% Caucasian. We are a rural community and a bedroom community, which means most of our community members work in Wichita but live in Cheney. We are a public high school. Review and prioritize. Could the results cause damage to our school district? Yes. I believe that the results of a decision could cause damage to both stakeholders and students. This decision could cause issues with the working culture of staff and the learning environment of students. Who will this affect? All stakeholders. Communities, students, parents, staff, administration. Stakeholders have stakeholders been consulted? Not yet. The Board of Education, the superintendent, community members, staff, students, no one has been contacted yet. Consulted. Can I learn more about this situation? Yes, I believe I should know more information about it. I don't know like the customs, race, norms of this teacher. I do not know how much experience this teacher has. Maybe she's a first-year teacher. Maybe she's a teacher that has 10 years of experience. I don't know her personality, and I also do not know the subject matter that she teaches. Review and prioritize. Do I know enough to make a decision? The bottom line, yes. I am the building principal. I have been given the authority to do what I think is best for my school, staff, community, and most importantly, to increase student success. This decision is something that should be analyzed in depth and not taken lightly. I believe there is sufficient evidence to recommend to the Board of Education to not renew Mrs. Stevens' contract for the following year. However, I do think there should be some other steps in place before this happens, but the bottom line is I do think there's enough evidence there to not renew her contract. Options and consequences. First option, stay the course and recommend not to renew her contract. The consequences here, possibly damage student and staff culture. A person loses their job, possibility of hiring a better teacher or the possibility of hiring a worse teacher, possibility of increase in student success. Option number 2, continue to let her teach under the normal provisions, possibly damage student and staff culture, decrease student success. This option is not really good for anyone. The third option is give her the opportunity and resources to develop more efficient classroom management skills that allows an increase in student success. The consequence here gives the teacher an opportunity, time, and resources to increase student success. I believe it also helps keep a positive school culture among other staff members. Evaluate your options. The first option, possibility of hiring a better candidate, which would improve school culture, but that is also a con in that maybe you hire someone that's not as good as this candidate, this teacher that you have now, Mrs. Stevens. And that could damage the school culture. Results are unknown. You would hire a new candidate, so you don't really know. The second option, she keeps her job, but it would decrease in student success, which is a con. Also, it would damage school culture. Results of that, nothing positive for stakeholders in my school district. The third option, teacher can get better, supervise. I can supervise and give feedback to the teacher to increase knowledge of classroom management. I think it would increase school culture. and it would be an opportunity for her to keep her job if she chooses to follow through that process. Possibility of the teacher refusing feedback and will lead to a non-renewal the following year. So in that case, that could be a con because now you're a year behind hiring somebody where you could have hired somebody the year before. Results, positive working culture, positive learning culture, and I think that would probably increase student success if she follows through with that. Choose the best option. I believe that the best option is number 3. Considering the circumstances and the unknown, I believe that this is the best choice for this particular situation. This choice allows Mrs. Stevens a year, resources, actionable feedback, and the opportunity to develop and implement classroom management to promote school improvement and student success. If she is not open-minded about this process throughout the year, she could be non-renewed at the end of the following year. This gives an opportunity for me as the principal to supervise, evaluate, and support her to promote school improvement and student success. Imagine implementing your decision. Well, step 1 would be to communicate with other current stakeholders to gain input and develop a plan to help promote school improvement and student success. Step 2 would be communicate with Mrs. Stevens on classroom management improvement plan and warn the consequences if not followed. Step 3 would be implement the developed plan by stakeholders into the action, which would include actionable goals, external training, and support from our staff. Supervise. Step 4 would be supervise, support, and evaluate the progress of Mrs. Stevens. Step 5 is to evaluate and analyze the data to see if Mrs. Stevens has promoted school improvement and student success. The last step is to either renew her for the following year or not renew her.